Turf Talk with Drew Miller. Presented by The Toro Company.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Tiger Turf Talk. We're here with Josh Lenz, the manager of athletic fields for Arizona State University. We're super excited to have you on. How you doing today? How's everything going? I know you got tournaments and chaos and everything, but all fun and everything's great, right? So how's everything going for you guys?
Yeah, I kind of base how everything's going based on the mood of the employees. And, everyone's happy right now. We just kind of went through our one-on-ones with every employee to see how they're doing, where they're at physically, mentally, and everything like that. And I got a lot of positive feedback. So even though we're in the thick of softball in our fourth tournament in a row, I think 40 games this month or something crazy like that, moods are high and things are going great.
40 games. God bless you guys, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
Now, something that I've always heard about ASU is it's just a great place to be, and that starts obviously with leadership and everything. For you, when it comes to just overall morale, you're talking about everybody's doing great, even through the hard times. What is it that you focus on, when we're talking about like keeping everyone, healthy and happy and making sure that they love their jobs? And again, all I hear is great things about ASU and how everybody does a great job and everybody loves what they're doing and everybody's always working in an efficient manner. Back to Brian Johnson and now you, obviously, being able to have that culture. What is it that you're focusing on to develop that and really, maintain? Because that's the hardest part, is keeping that, right? There are so many different variables. For you, what has been sort of the key to success when it comes to that?
I think it starts right there from the interview process, trying to find good people, people that value culture. To me, that's probably the most important thing in the workplace. There's a lot of people who are very talented, but at the end of the day, if they're not someone that other people want to work with, it's going to bring everybody else down. And I think we just like to get good people in the door who are going to buy into what we're doing. And I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but
hey, it works, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about, I don't know. If I can make sure that we have a good environment, I think the work's always going to take care of itself. People are going to come here. They're going to be motivated. They're going to want to work hard for you. I mean, if you can do whatever you can to keep them happy, the results are going to show. And yeah, that's what I've tried to strive for. I want to talk to my people often about how they're doing. I think that just right now we got a core group that's so good about, we recognize if someone needs a break. We all know how working in this industry can be. And because we have such a good crew who realize that and know that their time's going to come where they're going to need a break, people volunteer to pick, one another up. And I think that that's so cool about us, but also that work-life balance. There's no doubt there's going to be times in this job where you're going to have to grind and it's going to be hard and you're going to put in a lot of hours. But someone once told me, we don't work a 9-to-5 job. And that's very true. And a lot of people look at that as a curse, like, oh my gosh, I only want to go work my 8 hours. But, I also try to look at the glass half full in that situation and know that's not just a curse, it's also a blessing. And if we don't have anything going on, then we're going to try to get out of here a little early and we're going to balance people's schedules and we're going to make the most of those opportunities where we don't necessarily need to be here. So that's really what we're striving for. And we've done a good job of doing that lately. And I think it's really showing, just how people are reacting and behaving and just where they're at mentally and physically in the workplace.
I love it. That's awesome. Now, you're talking about balancing and everything. That's really hard to do, obviously. And there are so many different fields and things, and you guys are known to have the best fields in the country. Congratulations again on Field of the Year. That's incredible.
Thank you.
But we already knew that, ASU's always had that field. Everyone's always had an eye on it. Not just football, but baseball, softball, all of them have been incredible. When you're talking about planning and scheduling around different things, there are so many different needs from certain people on the crew and making sure you have that. What has it been for you over the last few years that you've seen? Because I think there's been a major shift in our industry as a whole, figuring out how to sort of, and I don't know what the right terminology, maybe like a jigsaw in the sense of like, okay, well, we know you need this, I need this, we can work this out and this. For you, what kind of system have you kind of developed so that you are getting them the time off that they need, whether that's be, for a personal thing, health reasons, other things like that? For you, has there been something that sort of like stuck out and how maybe be helpful to someone else that's trying to maybe struggling with that kind of concept of making sure that A, preventing burnout, but also B, creating a better work-life balance for not just your employees, but for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is communication. And I know that's, yeah, okay, just talk more or something. It's really get to know your employees at a deeper level. Communicate ahead of time. What do you need? What are you going to need? When would you like to be off? What is it that you really value? And just learning those simple things about them, like Leah, for instance. I know that this is her prime season now that she took over on our softball fields. Leah Withrow, super pumped that she's with us. I couldn't have been a better hire for us. She's incredible at what she does, but she also has a boyfriend that plays baseball. And I know that it was important to her also to be able to spend time. They both have, this is their busy season. So it's going to be hard for both of them to see each other a lot, but it's just working with her and knowing like, okay, I know Leah's going to want to take some time off during this season, especially when her boyfriend's off. And as hard as it's going to be to coordinate those schedules, I need to make that a priority for her, because that's ultimately, to me, that's more important than, the job. Like, the job is the job, and we're going to get the work done. And we have a lot of talented people that can help, step in and, pull off a great softball field. So it's when do we need to step up and do that? And there's not going to be a lot of times, but I know that there are going to be times, and we need to make that a priority for her. Like for instance, next Tuesday, it's a Tuesday during the workday. She's worked 4 straight weekends in a row, and we're getting ready for another homestand 2 days later. But at the end of the day, she hasn't seen her boyfriend a lot, and it's very important that I get her off on that Tuesday so she can spend time with him. And we're going to find a way to do that, because to me, that's always going to be more important than the job. The job, I don't want to sound bad to my supervisors.
No. That's huge.
We take
Nobody
pride in what we
that.
do, and we're going to pull it off. We're going to pull it off to the best of our abilities, but we're also going to work with people's schedules and make sure that at the end of the day, they still value that family time and all that other stuff more important than the job itself. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but that's what I fully believe in, and I'm going to keep going with that until it doesn't work. And
well, that's huge. When you talk about our industry, where we've been, what we've done, I'm working. I got to work until like 9:00 at night. I got stuff going on. I got to work this. I got to work this, and you completely fall into the trap of like, I can't not be here, right? There are so many things that could go wrong. I have to be here. Like, this is not okay, right? To be able to, again, what you're doing is phenomenal. To be able to put the human being before the field is something that, as, someone who has kids who I'm trying to, promote joining this industry, to know there's people out there that will prioritize them to the job is something that I'm not saying there's not a lot of people out there, but I'm saying that it's not as high as a priority as it should be, the way that you have portrayed it. And that's super incredible to hear. And, like you said, you guys do a phenomenal job. The reason that you do is because you treat your people like that, and the people are going to run through a brick wall for you. So I think that's awesome. For you, obviously, you sort of discussed it a little bit, but when you're hiring someone, that culture and everything that comes into mind, what are you focusing on when you're talking about a hire? There are so many different people, so many different cultures, backgrounds, past experiences, things that, you can look on paper and have a conversation with them, but then gauging whether it's the truth behind it, the person that you're talking to, like maybe there's things that don't line up. For you, what are you looking for, and how do you make that decision? Okay, this is the person that's going to take our crew to the next level and will continue doing great things here at ASU.
That's a tough question for me to answer. I don't know what it is. There's not one specific thing I look for. I just feel like I'm very fortunate and I have a very good judgment of people when I'm interviewing them. I've sat in committees before where there's just been someone who totally butchered the interview and, wasn't a great interviewer, but that's not going to make them bad in the workplace. And some of those people that, I've had the entire committee go against me and say, I don't know, I don't think that they're going to be a good fit. I'd eliminate them after round 1. Yet I bring them back, and I've even hired some of those people, and they've turned out to be absolutely incredible. And I don't, every now and then, you might get a flop or something, but we haven't had that for a very long time. And we've just been very fortunate that I don't know what it is. And it's kind of it. inexplainable. It's just, there's something that I can get
Intuition.
when something, talking to someone, and it's just like, yeah, they're going to be a good fit. They're going to be a great person to work with, and, they're going to want to work hard. And so, yeah, it's just some sort of intuition. And I don't know, other than saying that, I don't really
Oh,
know
I
how to.
love it. I mean, part of, and again, like I went to school for it. I have a doctorate. Like leadership is something that, sometimes there isn't an explanation. Sometimes it just happens in the way that, you feel, in a scenario. Like sometimes like you're like, might not work out, but I have a feeling that it's going to be great. And it works out. And sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's learning from those mistakes. And that's how, again, the next one's better, So, and again, something that I've always heard about ASU is the working with students is very much a priority. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
We have a
guys are
lot of
not a
students.
turf school, right? And it's not anything where like you have a funnel from a program coming to you. For you, the crew, obviously you have your full-time guys. When working with students and figuring out how it will operate and how everything, you have so many events. You guys have, is it called Sparky's Fairway right now? Is that what it's called? So sure, that's fun. A lot of work, but fun, when we're talking about all these things, when we talk about students and the role they play, have you ever had experiences where those kids sort of see the industry and might think about doing something like this, or really just bringing a light to who we are as a profession? What has that experience been like with the student workers and everything at ASU?
Well, it's incredible. I mean, it's exactly what you're doing. And I know it brings you a lot of joy that we get to mentor these kids. And for us, I know we don't have a turf school, and it's not all about mentoring them, in this industry. It's mentoring them for life. And even if they don't find an interest in this industry, we still get to affect them in some sort of way. And I've told a lot of students that came through here, at the very least, you're going to learn how to take care of your house or something in the future, when you have your own property.
1,000%. Yep.
Like, this job is going to teach you so many life skills, not just about, growing grass, that are going to be extremely valuable to you. And I've had a lot of students come back and just say how much they appreciated, working for us in that sense versus it being turf specific. So, but I did actually have a student who's not going to school for this, obviously, since we don't have a turf program, just this morning asked me like, hey, how was it for you as a student worker? I know that you kind of worked your way into this career as a student. What would that look like for me? And he's going to school for something completely different right now, but he's taking an interest in it because of what we're doing here and because it's of how it's affected him and how he's enjoying it. And it's also cool to see those stories develop too.
Absolutely. I love the, because I mean, I tell it all the time with our program, we have over 230 students. I'm maybe 5% are going in. Like it's not high percentages, it's not like I'm sending 100 kids out, because it is about life. It is about things moving forward. It's about the team camaraderie, understanding that, any workplace, you're going to have to work with other people. And sometimes you don't like the person. Sometimes it's like there's communication issues and things like that. So like, I love how there are so many things you learn from the job that are just so maybe even simple in mind, but like it's so hard for so many people to comprehend and understand how to do it practically in a workspace, or even life in general, So I couldn't agree with you more on that. You brought up mentorship, obviously, because that was sort of the question. Sorry for that. But when it comes to being a mentor, what do you think is critical for, not even a leader, just someone who is going to be sort of that mentor to a younger person? What should we be concerned about? What should we be, working towards? And I always like to sort of put it in the perspective of it's not just like in the forefront of your mind where like, I need to do this to be a better mentor. What should we be doing just naturally as a, superior or somebody who is in that mentor role to make sure that you are portraying what you hope for them in the future, whether that's, leading by example or things like that, where again, it's just naturally going to help them understand not this job, obviously, specifically, but like in the future, what could be, I don't know if I worded that right. I apologize if that was.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I think I kind of get where you're going with it. And for me, I think it's just, we want to teach kids to be good people. At the end of the day, what does that mean? You can be respectful, you can work hard, learn to prioritize correctly. There's so many things just that you can do and learn in your workplace. I mean, people come from all over, completely different backgrounds. so many things like that. And we try to teach them to work hard, respect one another. At the end of the day, like when you really break it down, I mean, it is a work family. Like you spend more time with the people at work than you probably do with your family at home. And whether you like it or not, like you're putting a second family together, and just be respectful to one another. We're going to screw up. We're going to make mistakes, but at the end of the day, how do you respond when you make those mistakes? Put your pride aside, apologize the correct way, or whatnot, and just keep those relationships good, because that's all you have. And you're going to have that for a long time. And hopefully you're going to have that for life. I mean, we still have students reaching back out that want to come visit. And some of them I haven't talked to in 5 years, but then they'll randomly out of the blue send me a text and be like, hey, can you write a letter of recommendation for me? Or, hey, can we swing back by and talk and see you? And it's just so cool that that'll continue even that far down the road when you can't keep in contact with them constantly. So just teaching them to be good people at the end of the day, be respectful to everybody and anybody and everybody, whether you like them or not. Yeah, work hard, I guess. I don't know.
No, I love the idea of relationships. We don't talk about it enough. It's not something that, is at the forefront of like a professional development or other things like that, where again, like it's supposed to better us, but at the same time, like, just being respectful is one of the easiest things to do. And it's hard to get people to understand, not a child, like not even like our high schoolers, like it's adults, where you see things, you're like, why in the world would you take that approach in this situation when like nothing comes out of that, And I also love how you brought up, failure is such a critical thing in our industry specifically, because if every time we failed, and something terrible happened, we would be in a lot worse shape than we are now. It's the best learning tool that I have here. And it happens more often than I want it to, because these are high schoolers and they're learning for the first time. But it's something that, they see it firsthand, and then it's not going to be a problem in the future, whether that's they ran into a pole and popped a tire, like, well, not going to take that turn that tight anymore ever again. Yeah, I think it's just something that, again, it makes a huge difference to understand that, if you don't have relationships, you have nothing, right? There's no people to go to. There's no one to actually, figure out the job. If you guys don't have a good relationship with your coaches, things aren't going to go well. Issues will arise other places. Now, to sort of segue into that, for you, obviously, college athletics is such a big conglomerate of different coaches, different facilities, and all these things, right? As, the manager of athletic facilities and fields, what are you looking forward to? What are you trying to accomplish when it comes to creating relationships with either the admin or the coaches, or, even maybe the players having an impact on how you operate? For you, what are those things that you've been able to accomplish in developing those relationships to better the overall, situation of the grounds crew in a sense?
This just goes back to that question I just answered about trying to be a good person. At the end of the day, whether it's something I agree with or not, taking a step back, like letting myself calm down, and then just kind of putting myself in their shoes. It's their field, and they have a certain way that they want it to perform to win games. And ultimately, that's all our goals, is to win games. I was hired here to put the best field out there that we can possible, in a way that the coach wants. And is that always going to be the best way, in my opinion? No. But at the end of the day, their job's on the line too, And if I can do exactly, what they want and have it perform exactly the way they want, and then, if it works, great, success to them. If it doesn't work, we readdress it and I educate them, something like that. It's just about trying to maintain that good relationship and educating them why I would do something the way I would or why I wouldn't, and going from there. But I think that that's kind of more of the mentality that we have to take is, we're sports field managers, and more times than not, we're probably going to know the best way to do something. But at the end of the day, it's not my field, it's their field. And I was put here to try to manage it the best way possible for them. So even though I might not want that event on the field, or, I might not want to cut it that high or whatever it may be, again, it's just about putting your pride aside, doing it the way that they want, doing it the best to your ability the way that they want. And if you can prove yourself more times than not, eventually they're going to start to trust you. And once you can build that trust, it gets so much easier, to do things the way that you actually want to do it. So,
yeah. Oh yeah. I have that even at high school, and that's bad. But no, I completely understand. And I mean, to deal with coaches, like turnover and stuff like that, everything happens, and you guys are the ones that are usually there. So when it comes to like overall for you, how has it been specifically this year? You know, you guys made a deep run with football. It was special. What was the game again? You guys won, didn't win because there was a time clock thing. How was that experience? You know, how was like being a part of something that again had such a huge impact with a coach who is, you know, polarizing, like a great guy who's just different, and it's showcased through the media and everything. What was that experience like, being able to be a part of, again, an even bigger culture than just the culture you've developed in the shop there at ASU?
Well, that experience in particular was wild. And just when you think you're prepared for everything as much as you can be, like I never expected to have essentially a double field rush.
Oh,
You know, with the way that as many goalposts as we saw get torn down and stuff this year, you get a field rush, you drop the goalpost, everything goes great, and then there's 1 second left on the clock. You have to get everyone off, but it's impossible to get everyone back up into the stands. So now everyone's literally standing 6 feet off of the field, and you have to raise the goalpost back up, but then get it down again before they climb it and tear it down and someone gets raised. It was
just
wild.
like they're all on the post. I'm like, I'm going to do it. When the clock goes out, you better put that thing down or I'm getting up there.
Yeah. So it was wild, but it was fun. And, you know, it's those experiences where you cringe as a field manager, like seeing how people are going to come out and trash the field and, you know, get people to rush it twice. But then you sit back and think about it, and man, what a cool experience for a university that's just struggled the last, you know, many years to get winning seasons like that and to be in that position. And you have to put that aside and enjoy the experience, and then just get back to doing what you were hired to do. It's going to happen, and people see it, and people know it's happening. And at the end of the day, administrators are going to know you're going to struggle to get that field back. They're going to sympathize with you.
They're like, sorry, guys, it's happening. Here we go again.
Yeah. Then you just do the best you can. And if you can't do it, then they know why you couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can, then hats off to you. It was a great experience. It was a fun season. And yeah, really cool for our guys, everyone on our crew, to experience that again. I think it brought another level of excitement that we hadn't experienced for a while. And to combine that with our field of the year, it felt like a success all around. So that was really cool.
Yeah, no one more deserving. The field always looks immaculate whenever you see it, you know. And I do want to get into that because when we talk about field art, there's really no one even close. You know, you guys have inspired my students more than once on so many different occasions with all the stuff that you've done. For you probably have a lot more autonomy in the sense of the schemes and everything that goes into it, from the 9/11. That was with, what am I saying? Pigment, right?
Yep. I used Pigment for that
one. When it comes to just the overall creativity of things, my favorite still to this day and always will be the topographical map in the end zone, which most people are like, what are the squiggles? I'm like, that is badass. You know, like just taking that concept and creating something to where it then relays into the game. You know, I 1000% believe that is like probably 98% of our success at Brentsville here is letting our students design the end zones, create it, and then actually do it, because that's what education should be all about, is being able to have them have their own creativity come to life, right? For you, what is that like, and how does your mind work when it comes to all this stuff? Because I hear you're the mastermind behind all these designs over the years and everything that you create, and sort of what is that process, if you don't mind, you know, enlightening us on. I mean, I try and do it, and I freehand a lot of things, and everyone's like, this is amazing. I was like, don't look at it too closely. It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, I guess it starts with my background. You know, I originally went to school for graphic design. I wanted to be a graphic designer. When I kind of quit playing college athletics and transferred, none of my credits transferred, and I was going to have to start the program all over. And I said, heck no. So I was working at a local golf course at the time, and the guy told me about turf management. And when I got to Iowa State, you know, I heard about sports fields, and I saw a lot of these field designs that people were doing with mowing stripes, and it allowed me an opportunity to combine my love for art and designing things with sports, and then it kind of just took off from there. So I don't really know, like every now and then I'll have design ideas pop into my head way ahead of time. Sometimes it's like the week of, and we're
how does that work? I mean, that's awesome. Just the week of.
Yeah, I remember like 2 weeks before a game, we weren't planning on doing anything. Brian and I were driving to go play darts, Brian Johnson and I, and it just popped into my head like ASU USA, like a reciprocal. You've seen that before. You put a mirror in the middle and it says one thing one way, but the opposite thing the other way. And I'm like, and to do that for a salute to service game, like it says ASU and USA, it's just something that kind of popped into my head. And Brian's like, oh man, I don't know if that's going to work. I'd need to see it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to design something. And then here, we're doing it 2 weeks later. And so that was a cool one. But,
It's awesome.
I like to be unique with my designs. The year that I wanted to be the first to do digital camo, but then Danny pulled it off that one year.
Freaking Danny. Damn it.
And the Redskins pulled it off that same year. So now I can't do that. But
Come on, it would look awesome.
Yeah,
you could do full end zone. No one's done that.
Would be cool, and that would be extremely time consuming. But I don't know. Now I feel like it's been done, so I got to come up with something different. So
yeah, we copied it. We copied that for sure here at Brentsville, which it turned out way better than I expected to.
Yeah, I also like those designs with hidden meanings, like the topographical map that you said, and
so cool.
Sometimes I like to try to hide them a little bit and let people just get creative and try to figure it out. So we're going to do one this year, I think, like that. I haven't designed it yet, but I got one in mind that I've never seen done before. So we'll see. It might look kind of weird, but it'll be fun to see if people can figure it out.
I'll look for the hidden meaning. I'm like, 1 yard line, 2 yard line. Nope, not there yet. Do you have a favorite one that you've done out of all of them? I mean, you've done so many. I mean, you probably got 50 in the memory tank, man. Like, it's crazy.
I mean, it'd be hard to pick because so many people I just like how people react to certain ones. And we got a really good response to the 901. I mean, that
one was insane. I also love the gradient one. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. My bad.
No, you're good. Yeah, that was a fun one too. One that I also want to, it's hard because there's copyright or trademark infringements on our logo when we do gradients, but they are fun to mess with. Yeah, I don't know if I could pick any one. I really like seeing people's responses to them though, and like, oh, you should do something like this again, or yeah, it's always fun to hear from people like you that say, oh, do the topographical map one. That was one of my favorites. Oh, cool.
Yeah. I mean, it was just the concept of it, and because being able to visit there back at SFMA in Phoenix, it's built into a mountain, it's just so cool that everything, the way that it works, you're like, oh my gosh, that's what the stadium is. It's in the end zone right now. So it's just so cool.
And I think we painted that one, man, 5 years ago. So to have people that still remember it 5 years down, a specific end zone you painted 5 years down the road.
I mean, your guys' military camo. I mean, you had the sunrise ones were always cool. Which I think you've done a couple variations of that, or am I wrong on that?
Probably, I don't know. we did have
I gotta pull out the old notebook. Which one did I do that?
Yeah,
I feel like you got a really badass scrapbook to be made. I'm just saying, there's all the things that you guys have done. Now, I do want to bring this one up. You brought Brian up. For you, obviously, we talked about being a mentor, but for you, when we talk about mentors in your career, who are some of those mentors that have meant a lot to you and had a massive impact in what you've been able to accomplish? Specifically how they really impact you and how you operate day to day, and, what your goals are in your career,
Yeah, well, I mean, there are definitely two big ones that come to mind. My first one was Tim Van Loo. He was at Iowa State when I was there, and man, he taught me a lot about the family and the workplace. And he really took me under his wing when I was at Iowa State and kind of new to the industry, and more so than just a mentor in turf, but just a mentor in life. And Tim and I had such a close relationship that, he was in my wedding, him and his wife both. And even to this day, just keeping in touch with him and bouncing ideas off of him, probably more so that, just that personal relationship about life. It's meant more to me than anything. And then, coming to ASU and Brian, I think that's where I learned a lot or even changed a lot, and where I am about how important culture is. Both Brian and Tim have probably been better mentors for me. I mean, not that they haven't been great professionally, but more so personally, and just about being, a good person, a good man, a good husband, a good father, than being good in this industry. Even though they're both incredible at what they do in this profession, I think it just says more about you as a person when they kind of change you in that aspect. And if you can get on the right track that way, I think it's going to help developing you into a good leader and a good mentor for future students that come along. So shout out to those two guys for sure, who still mean a great deal to me.
I love it, because it's sort of been a theme throughout the whole conversation is just figuring out what you need to be a good human being. And it's harder than you think when you think about all the people you meet in this industry. And, and I have some incredible friends that I see twice a year and get to talk to on occasion. But like in this industry, we have some of the most incredible people, right? And you mentioned two of the greatest. And it's not that their careers were fantastic or Brian is probably one of the best painters in the world, right? Everyone knows that. And his career is highlighted by that. But you just know they're two of the greatest people you ever meet.
Yeah.
That understanding is something that, as an industry, we need to champion more of, because we do have some of the best human beings and we do have some of the best, supporters of other people, and it's hard to do in an industry that demands so much, especially for, being one of the top college athletic facilities. I mean, you guys are always in it, baseball, you're always in it in softball, you're talking about tournaments and playoffs and all the other things. I'm sure other sports, I'm sorry if I missed out, Leo. I'm a Hokie, so we're never in the playoffs, I'm used to it. So Virginia Tech, we need to fix that quickly. When we're talking about Brian, obviously you were able to go down to, little shift in the conversation. You got to go down to New Orleans this past year for the Super Bowl. It's a unique opportunity. It's a lot of fun, a lot of great camaraderie among some of the best in our industry. For you, what was that experience like? And, I saw a couple pictures of you guys having a snowball fight when you started off. That was pretty fun, right? In Louisiana.
Yeah.
Just sort of what was your experience like in that whole process and, the detail that goes into making sure that, the biggest stage of football is pristine for you guys? What is that experience like? And just how overall would you say, to people that are on the outside looking in, what's that, like? I'm going to stop asking the same question. I apologize.
Sure. Well, I mean, it is an extremely tough job to do. I think it's one that maybe people don't realize how hard it actually is. You think about it and they're like, man, one field and you're going there 4 weeks early or whatnot to get it ready. Well, it's so much more than that. We got all these practice fields and just the amount of rehearsals that go on, the things that you have to fight on a day-to-day basis. Most people look back and, man, you got to paint one football field. Man, if that's all you think we do, you're like, crazy,
You're
I think
insane.
this year they had like 57 carts that came out to make up the stage that was done at halftime. And to have those constantly rolling out on the field multiple times a day for essentially the whole week of the game. And that's not the only rehearsal going on. I mean, you got anything down to like
Pre-game.
The Play 60 Kid or the national anthem or America the Beautiful singing or team player intros or, even just camera angles.
Chaos.
A little high school team that comes out and throws the football around so they can get their camera angles dialed in. There's so much going on that field that you have to battle that it's the hours are crazy, man. I think each week I was there, we worked about 95 to 105 hours a week. So it's nonstop go, but it's such a rewarding experience to be there with some of the best groundskeepers in the nation. I mean, not that there's more out there that are just as deserving to go, but to be one of those guys that has been on that crew this was my 11th year now, to be doing that, just having that experience to go out there on the biggest stage where 135 million people are watching and to have that experience and get to be around those guys, it's definitely a rewarding one for sure that I try not to take for granted too much. So.
Absolutely. Now, outside of Brian, because that's cheating, what are some of those guys that you really enjoy getting the experience for? A lot of them are returning, a lot of them are coming back. Who are some of your favorites, from those trips? And He loves everyone else that doesn't get mentioned here, so don't come after him, come after me, just so you know. But like fond memories, things like that from these events.
Well, oftentimes when we go, we get split up into crews. There's kind of a practice, NFC practice site crew, an AFC practice site crew, and a stadium crew. So oftentimes you just get working in these small crews, and that's kind of who you're with the most. In the last few years, I've just been a stadium crew guy. They know that Brian and I had a really close working relationship, and we work really well together. So aside from Brian, there's a couple other guys who are on that stadium crew that I work with quite a bit. Sergio from Miami Dolphins, he's always one guy that I get to work a lot with. And then we had a new guy this year. His name was Garrett. He actually, I think, he used to work for the Falcons, but he was a newer guy to the crew that kind of became a part of our little tight-knit crew at the stadium, I had an awesome time getting to know him and his story. And he was just a really great guy to work with. So that's and then Danny was on the Shield crew at the stadium with us for a bit. He bounced
Danny
around
boy.
a little bit. But got to work with him a little more. So, it's just giving a small shout out to kind of that stadium crew I work with. But yeah, like you said, I love working with everyone there and getting to hear about, from every one of them about how their years went and how their life's going and things like that. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's just awesome to see you guys from afar doing what you do. And, this year, especially your guys' 25-yard logos, the intricacy on it was crazy. There are so many things that go into it and the execution. And then, like you said, what everyone gets, twisted is like, oh, it's just a football game. What are you guys doing? Like all those rehearsals and everything, the stories I've heard, it's like, oh my gosh, I would have a panic attack.
Yeah.
But
it's not as easy as people make it out to be.
No. It doesn't matter if it's natural grass or artificial, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about as an industry as a whole, we're talking about those professionals, SFMA and all that. In your career, how has sort of that association had an impact? It's kind of behind me. I was somewhere. I don't know. But when we talk about the SFMA winning National Field of the Year, being part of something that, again, is really growing. I always forget. It's only 50 years old now or close to it. And that's rather young for associations nowadays. Being a part of that, how has that impacted your career? Being able to meet like-minded people and be able to bounce ideas off of them, things like this, where we get to have this great conversation about just, your career and how you've been able to develop relationships. Because I think, like you said, foundation of a great career is usually a network of relationships that are well connected. For you being a member and all that, how has SFMA impacted your career? I'm going to stop repeating questions. I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Right.
Yeah. One definitely early on in my career, tried to go every year, got plugged in, met a lot of great people. And, as of these past few years, I'm ashamed how much I haven't been able to get involved. It does
busy a couple times, couple different time zones. No biggie, right?
Yeah, it does conflict usually with the Super Bowl every year. So it is a little harder to go. But also we're usually limited on how many people we can send from ASU. And that's just, again, it's about taking care of your people for me. And if I can sacrifice myself going, so now some of my younger guys can go meet people, get plugged in, that's something that I'm going to do every time. And I'm fortunate that I get to send Mike and now Leah every year so they can continue to network, so they can have that experience. I get a lot of great opportunities in this industry. And like I said, I don't want to ever take those for granted, but I also want to be able to dish out those opportunities, especially to the people below me. And it's just one of those other ways that I can reward them throughout the year. My assistants do such an incredible job at what they do. And, it's not a vacation because they're going to learn, they're going to network, but just as well as I do, it's such a great experience.
Let me tell you something. It's a vacation for me. I'll tell you right now. And I present that every year.
Yeah.
It's away from this. It's away from the classroom that I'm in right now. I'm away from the chaos. It's like, okay, put me on a plane to wherever you got to go.
Well, to my bosses, if they happen to hear this, we're still going to the education session.
It's definitely not a vacation. I didn't say it. Sorry.
So, yeah. But that's where I'm at with it now. I know the way that it's affected me, when I was a student and then early on in my career, and I'll still go whenever I'm given the opportunity, but I know how my assistants are benefiting from it now, and I know what it means to them. And that's just as rewarding to me as if I was going and receiving that in the same way.
Absolutely. You mentioned your assistants. They're awesome. I got to hang out with them out there in Palm Springs. For you, and again, sorry, I keep going back to the mentorship thing, and it's not really mentorship, but for you, how are you able to set a standard to trust the three of them to do the job? There are so many different levels of people that might not be involved. Your system might not be involved in conversations and stuff like that. But for you, how are you able to personally take a step back, take care of yourself, be with family and whatnot, and trust them that they can do the job well? How are you able to instill sort of that level, that standard of what we expect at ASU being the best,
Yeah. I mean, that was extremely tough for me early in my career because you're coming in, and if you have the attention to detail that I do, and like the kind of like that over the top OCD level, it was
It's
really
usually the
hard.
best in this industry, honestly.
Yeah. It was really hard for me initially to, if something needs done, that you're going to get it done the way that you want, and you're going to go out there and do it right. And it was really hard, but you think back to it and everything comes full circle. It's about creating that culture. It's about creating that trust in your employees. And if you can't do that, you're not going to get that work-life balance that I'm preaching. And now I'm trying to teach that to my assistants. It's kind of one of those things when you grow up in this industry, you're kind of grown up. You're grown up, you're taught, like, you need to work hard, you need to be there all the time, you need to take pride in this, and you do, but you also need to learn to take a step back. Like, you can be good, you can be great and not be there all the time. And I've really had to learn to trust in my assistants and in my employees. And I need to, we need to teach them the level of detail that we expect here. We need to teach them that it's okay not to rush through a job and get to the second thing. And that's why, prioritizing things is so important. Let's take our time. Let's get the things done that we know we need to get done first, but let's get them done the right way. And they're buying into that. And now, that was something that was really hard for my assistants, like Mike Kuhn, especially. For those that know Mike, again, a lot like me, high attention to detail, very OCD about things, wanted to do everything himself. But then I had a conversation with him like, Mike, I know you think that you need to be the one to aerify, but at the end of the day, I can't have you sitting on an aerifier 8 hours a day. Like, I need you other places. You have to learn to teach people how to aerify and how to aerify to,
Not hit heads. Sorry.
how we want it done. And then walk away from them and trust them. And, people are going to make mistakes, but they're going to learn from those mistakes. If you can, make them into a learning experience, and they're going to get better. And he's starting to buy into that completely now. And I think that that's just why we're continuing to thrive in the areas that we are, because we're teaching everybody everything and we're learning to trust in them. And that's why, anyone on our crew can pick any one other person up and create that, essentially back to the good culture and avoiding that employee work-life balance burnout.
I love it. I mean, perfect. Now for you, you still have that I want to be able to help. I want to be able to do things. I want to make sure everything's going well. What is your outlet? How do you get out of the workplace? What is it that, keeps you out and make sure that you have a good work-life balance? We all sort of have our things. We've got people who love fishing. You got people who love gaming, different things like that. That again, it's sort of like, hey, this is how I need to separate myself from the workplace. This is what I can do. I find my sanity. Sorry to make it that extreme, but like sort of like how you find your happy place in a sense.
Yeah. For me, it's just experiences, whether that be just going and playing a sport, golf, basketball, pickleball, anything like that, or just experiencing things with my family. When you look back at your life, the things I think that you remember the most are maybe the trips you took or the things that you got to do with other people. For me, that's it. If my family and I can take a camping trip or go to Disneyland or go hiking, or even just something as simple as go out and riding dirt bikes with my son, having those experiences with the people that are closest to you and getting to do those often, that's living life outside of this job and making the most of it.
I love it. And you're probably in a good area for dirt biking, right? The terrain's probably perfect
Got
for
a lot
it.
of little trails for sure.
I would be the guy that, hit a rock and flip 4 times, break every bone in his body, and say,
Yeah.
"Hey guys, I'm done. I can't do this."
He's only 6, so it's nothing too crazy, but it's
Well, that's good. That's good. I remember we were when I was working at Virginia Tech, we had this kid. He had a not a moped. It was like a small motorcycle, right? And for some reason, again, like we all know how a clutch works, I could not figure out how to figure out the handles. And I was like, this is not going to end well for me. And of course, I send the bike right up between my legs and like straight up. I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't sit down on that. That would have been bad.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. But no. And again, like, everything that goes into it, it's important to find that space, and that's incredible to have it. Now, I have kept you a little long. I'm sorry about that. I do want to end on these 2 questions because I feel like they're going to be incredible for our students to hear from an industry professional. If there was one thing when you first started out in your career, in turfgrass, when you ended up at Iowa State with Tim, when you first started, and it doesn't have to be like bettering your scenario or your career trajectory, whatever, like, again, what would be the one thing you wish you knew going into this industry, and why?
Oh, man. One thing I wish I
Sorry.
would have known going into this industry. I don't know if I got a good answer for that. I think that one of the coolest things about this industry is how tight knit it is, and I think that that's why we've been able to affect so many people. Is just from a small scale, people are seeing the tight knit closeness of our group, and that's why we're affecting our students now who aren't even in this industry. But then even on a larger scale, like when I can meet someone across the country, like I tell a student, oh, he's like a good friend, Jacksonville Jaguars head groundskeeper. It's like, oh my gosh, people clear over there too, or even if it's going like to Carl Stanley across the pond, how tight knit of an industry it is. I don't think you realize that when you kind of get involved in this, and it leads to so many open doors everywhere. So many job opportunities, so many of those experiences that I was talking about. You had kind of mentioned it earlier, networking and things like that. Like this is a great networking industry to be in, and not just from a turf standpoint, but it even branches outside of that. And I've met so many people who don't necessarily aren't turf managers that have helped me out personally and professionally. And that goes a long ways. And just knowing those people, having those experiences, being able to call upon those people for so many things personally and professionally, it's cool. It's cool. It's rewarding for sure. And I think that there's a lot of value in that.
1,000%. I mean, you call someone, they're going to answer, and 9 times out of 10. So I couldn't agree with you more on that. Now, this one is for my students specifically. They're coming up on graduation here in about 2-3 months. Whether it's going into this industry or whether it's just the next stage of life, taking a step off the graduation stage, for you, what would be your best words of advice for them sort of taking that next step into the world,
Yeah, I guess it would be figure out what your true meaning of this life is, and make the most of it. And this kind of goes back to our whole talk. I've had so many close friends, even just this year, who gave their whole life to this job, and a lot of groundskeepers do. And then just like that, it's over. And as much as they did, even if they stayed at a place for 35 years, and it's just a shame. Some of them can be forgotten so quick, and it's whether they're fired or let go or they just decide to retire, to see that kind of play out now that I've kind of grown up and gotten in my career, it's really hard to see. And that's why I push this work-life balance so much. You could give everything to your career, and then at the end of the day, you have nothing to show for it, or, at the end of your career. And it's just kind of heartbreaking to see. So it's don't miss out on those life moments because of your job. That's how I am. That's not how everyone is. Some people live for their career, and that's okay. If that's how you want your life to be defined, that's totally cool. But on the other side of that, I think a lot of people say, well, if you want to work in a profession where, you're going to work your butt off and you're going to make no money doing it, I don't think that that's true either. There's definitely going to be hard times, but there's also going to be incredibly rewarding experiences. And boy, I tell you what, I've never had more fun in my career than I'm having right now. And it's just because of the crew that we've got and the culture that we've built and the things that we get to do. Yeah, we might not be getting rich off of what we're doing, but we're having a fun time doing it. And my work-life balance right now is great. I'm building a house right now, and I get to go check up on that often. I get to go watch every single one of my son's sports events. I get to pick him up every day from school. And I still feel like we're holding that, highly maintained level that's kind of expected out of us on all our fields, and our coaches are extremely pleased. And to be able to put those two things together and not let some of those moments go missed. I heard a lot of those stories from Brian, like, oh, I couldn't go on a family vacation because I had something happen at the field or whatnot. And it just stinks to hear about those stories. And that's one thing that I don't want any of my guys to ever, or girls ever, have to experience in this profession. And so far, we've been doing a heck of a job at not letting those moments go miss. So I don't want that to scare anyone. I hope that brings hope into them in this industry, because I know it can be kind of frightening, especially when you get sucked into some of those baseball homestands or things like that. But it doesn't always have to be all work, man. So I hope that that's kind of the one thing that I can leave them with.
Well, Josh, I can't thank you enough, man. This has been phenomenal. I mean, everything that I feel like every industry professional, my students, college students need to hear, you have hit everything nail on the head. So I cannot thank you enough for taking the time today. This has been, again, incredible.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you reaching out, and I appreciate the opportunity to do this.
Yeah, for sure.
It's incredible what